Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to avoid any lazy negativity, we are making this here a drinking game.
Oh.
Any negative criticisms about a film are, of course, allowed, but they will be called out by hearing this sound. That's a buzzer, people. That means we're going to have to drink.
All right. So pour yourselves a glass and, yeah, let's get into this.
Jeff just spilled his beer everywhere.
I was distracted by that. There was
I worked in a bar once. I know how to pour a beer.
Apocalypse over there. That's happened to me once. It's on record. This happened to me.
Jeff. Drink, bitch.
People are already confused about the rules. They're like negative things, or if Jeff spills his beer, what?
Yeah, no, if we just want to be dicks, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All of the above.
We're talking
about Space Jam, people. That is the movie we are going to be talking about. This is part of our new movie series. For you new to our podcast here, we also have series where we do should have seen that by now, where we take, it's been classic so far, but movies that we should have seen, and one of us hasn't seen it usually, and sometimes they're recommended by our audience. So we hope that you reach out to us. We also have Was It Really That Bad, where we try to redeem a movie as a positive film podcast that gets buzzed and has to drink if you say anything negative. We have fun with that. But this is a new movie that we are going to be talking about. We're very excited for some Space Jam. Before we get too deep in it, John, shout our people out.
Shout outs. Carlos Barroso is our beer sponsor. He is based.
Where's he been?
I think he's still up in New York, and he should be finishing up with his whatever that beer program is, where you basically become like a sommelier for beer.
Yeah,
like that.
Australian.
Sure.
In Australian, sure.
He's getting his Australian citizenship.
He is the man. His handle on Instagram, if you want to give him a follow to support all the beer making passion and love, is Cbarrozobar 2019. Excuse me, CBARROZOBAR 2019. If you want to give him a follow, and if you're digging the music on this episode and every single episode, it is provided by the artist Dasein. That's Dasein, Dasein. You can head over to soundcloud.com/Dasein-artist and download all the music for free. And as always, please love us, like us, share us, hate us, comment, all those things, rate, review, subscribe. We are at The Love of Cinema Pod on every platform except for Twitter. We're just at The Love of Cinema there. Please join, share with your friends. We're ridiculous, and we want more people just to know that. This is such a silly drinking, fun podcast thing. Yeah.
As we said last week, if you come after us on the socials, Dave will respond for sure.
Come after us.
List.
Come on after us.
Yeah. You will read his Australian accent in his comments, people. Okay.
That's actually possible.
We are talking about Space Jam. I don't know how much of a setup we really need.
Space Jam, a new legacy.
A new legacy.
Yes.
Yeah, with the star
Space
so
Jam,
big,
LeBron James.
they didn't even need to put his face on the poster.
Why don't they just call it Space Jam LeBron James? You're right.
Yeah, you only see him from the waist down on the poster. Just like, never mind. So this movie just came out after being delayed a year thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic. You might have heard of that. This is directed by Malcolm D. Lee, who directed Girls Trip.
Yeah.
And according to IMDb, there are 14 people with some kind of writing credit.
Oh my. Oh my.
Yeah. So half of Hollywood, congratulations on making
it's another
$5
Super Mario
each.
Brothers.
Yeah, after you split all of this. Of course, it stars LeBron James as Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
From the first one. It also stars Don Cheadle as the villain that you saw in the trailer. And then some up-and-comers. Cedric Joe, who plays his son Dom Jones, who is now 3 years older than when he filmed it. So that's a whirlwind.
Yeah.
You see him and you don't even recognize him. Chris Davis as Malik. You have... I'd actually never really seen anybody else from this film, with the exception of a couple cameos, and then of course a whole lot of Looney Tunes, a whole bunch of NBA basketball
a couple
players.
of cameos. You could watch this fucking thing for 50 years and still not get all the cameos they threw in this thing.
Right, and then I know this shouldn't necessarily be part of my setup here, but do you think? I know that they filmed this before the Amazon 20th Century Fox merger, but I kind of watched this like a fuck you to that merger, because Warner Brothers, obviously Looney Tunes, Warner Brothers put every single movie that they have in their catalog in this movie somehow. You have The Nun. You have, I wrote them down and I'm just not looking at my
Actually,
notes.
that's not The Nun. It's something else.
What was that?
It's something else. So we'll get to
How
that
did you see
later.
that? They were in the background. Yeah,
We'll get to
Mad
that
Max
later.
Fury Road, Harry Potter. They straight up took scenes out of Harry Potter, Austin Powers, Casablanca, Wonder Woman 1984. Like they were shameless in saying, "Look how awesome."
I refer to the basketball game as the HBO Max home screen, basically.
Basically,
like
everything they had, everything HBO Max owns is in this movie somewhere.
right.
Some of it hilariously so.
Yeah, there were some good moments with that. They utilized that well. That was fun.
All right. Well, let's set up the premise.
Yeah,
for
set
this.
it up, dude. Let's
set
get
up the
into
premise
it.
for this. So, the plot is a rogue artificial intelligence. You heard that correctly.
Yep.
The AI, who is Ava from Ex Machina. I mean, oh no, I'm so sorry. It's Don Cheadle. Sorry, Don Cheadle is an AI come to life. Kidnaps the son of famed basketball player LeBron James, who then has to work with Bugs Bunny to win a basketball game. And if you're thinking, how did they get from kidnapping LeBron James to needs to work with Bugs Bunny to win a basketball game? You're right! Ding, 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 ding. You hit this movie spot on. That's the point. They know it. You know it. Go shut your mouth and go watch this movie. It's available on HBO Max for the next 30 days. It's also available in theaters. It was the #1 movie at the box office this past weekend. Opening weekend, 31 million domestic, 50 million worldwide.
Wow, that's not bad when it's for free on HBO Max. That's
I know. I don't know the HBO Max numbers. I did not see
good
them
on
in any of the
everyone
articles
going
yet.
out for that.
It's $150 million budget. I have no idea what marketing was on top of that, but it looks like it's going to do okay. And if I don't know what Warner is doing this year with letting everybody watch this shit for free, with their subscription services, as long as, they have John's login, like that is what's going on.
John's login's in the comments, everyone.
The movie's a little funny. It's a little silly. It's a little ridiculous. If you like basketball, you got a lot of famous basketball players doing some stuff. If you like Looney Tunes, you're probably older than their target demo for this. But it was a good time. That's Space Jam: A New Legacy. We'll circle back to anything else we have to say. But what about initial reactions? Why don't we start with what's your familiarity with the original, and then were you looking forward to this one?
Yeah. I rewatched the original. Did you guys rewatch that at all recently?
I rewatched half of it.
I didn't have time this week. Yeah.
I had a very busy week too, so I watched the first half, and it was fun.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's much shorter. That one's an hour and a half, so this one is like almost 2 hours. So it felt like more movie, even just because I watched the first one after New Legacy, just to kind of see how much I could squeeze in, and it kind of gets right to the point. This one definitely has a little bit more story that they're trying to tell.
Yeah.
But I think I came up in the time anyway. I think that one was in 1996. So I came up with that being definitely kind of in the background of later childhood. We weren't kids then, we thought we were getting into our teenage years at that point, but it had a sweet soundtrack. This had never really been done before. Michael Jordan was next level fame and athlete. So it was so fun and original. I think this one does that. It's just it's kind of hard to escape the fact that you're comparing it to something that was so unique and kind of strange for the time with Michael Jordan. I think as soon as LeBron busted onto the scene, we've all kind of been saying, when is he going to get his Space Jam movie? So we can all finally stop
every day
saying
of
that,
everyone's
right?
life. Yeah.
I mean, everyone, it's like all anybody's been thinking about.
Who's better, Michael Jordan or LeBron James? Who cares? When is LeBron going to get his Space Jam movie?
Honestly, now it's
the
now
box
it's over.
office will tell.
I like that Don Cheadle even has that moment though, where he's like, I still think that's up for grabs,
yeah,
when he comments on it,
Very self-referential.
Oh,
it
yeah,
was very self-referential.
So self-aware.
I think they did, and that's probably the best part about it, is that I think they know what it is, and you do feel like, unlike the original Space Jam, which I do think relies on the gimmick I was just describing, this one seemed to be less about trying to recreate the exact same dynamic with LeBron James, and it was almost more like it kind of turned into the gimmick of welcome to the Warner's universe. I don't know if you guys noticed, but at the beginning, this was produced by Warner Brothers and Warner Brothers Games. So they had, it felt like you were stepping into something that was a little bit like the movie was starting to give nod to this whole video game thing, the way the IP got swept into all of it. So it became, for me, it didn't feel like it was quite as focused on LeBron James interacting with Looney Tunes characters and the classic villain setup that you're looking for. It kind of was like most of the scenes I was kind of searching for what was in the background, because you felt like you were in that the server verse and all that Warner Brothers IP. It kind of turned into something different for me, which was probably a good idea. So they didn't try to just recreate the first one.
Yeah. We could circle back to some of those things, but Dave, what do you think? What was your initial?
Well, I mean, I grew up with the Looney Tunes. Like, yeah, that was my, my Saturday morning cartoons or whatever, or my just got home from school cartoons. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen Barbara of Seville, so I'm so glad that gets a nod in this movie very quickly. But like, I grew up with that. Then I saw Space Jam. I really loved Space Jam. I worked in a theme park at one point with Looney Tunes. I helped Ryan work on Looney Tunes shows and create them and stuff. So I'm all in for this. And I sat down, and tell you the funniest thing, I sat down with my my 9-year-old niece and my 5-year-old niece. Because we were visiting family this weekend. I'm like, let's have a movie night. And I put it on. They had no idea who Bugs Bunny was. Oh boy, do they now. They had no idea, because Looney Tunes are not the thing anymore. So like, they kind of faded into obscurity. There's all these other things to watch. There's like, Peppa Pig on YouTube and all that crap. But it's like, okay.
Don't you shit on Peppa Pig,
but yeah, that's Peppa Pig's job, to shit on everyone.
Wow, big joke. Big joke.
But they had no idea about any of this. So we sat down and they're watching this movie, and then it suddenly went full Looney Tunes, and the look of wonder on their faces was just amazing. Like, they're sitting there with a smile and a grin, they cackled, they squealed, like, they had a great time, and I had a great time, like, watching it with them.
That was something I was curious about, like, consciously, like, while they're clearly saying that, like, part of the setup is that Bugs Bunny is the only one who lives in the Looney Tune planet and the serververse of Warner Brothers IP. Like, they've all like kind of left it. So it kind of gives you that sense that like, people are kind of forgetting about them. I didn't really know that was a thing, because I don't have children. So
absolutely.
That was cool. I'm glad they brought that back. Jeff, what'd you think, dude?
I rewatched half of Space Jam, and I thought I loved the soundtrack to the original Space Jam.
We have to talk about it. This one does not have
that damn song.
Why didn't they get fucking somebody amazing to write like a kick-ass soundtrack for this one? But keep going.
I don't know if you can top Space Jam.
Yeah, I don't know if like songs are the way into soundtracks nowadays, because I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I haven't seen a movie in a while where it was all new songs. Which I can't remember if like I Believe I Can Fly. Yes, I know it's
also
Kelly,
Warner Music doesn't really talk to Warner Movies, so they can't pillage that.
Yeah, so there were songs that they probably thought would be more tasteful, but for me it was they were so like they didn't take me out of the story. Whereas like the Monstars theme, where you had the LL Cool J verse, I definitely tried to memorize when I was young, and that's, of course, Everybody get up, it's time to slam now. That's not the Monstars.
You hit 'em high, hit 'em high.
Hit 'em high was the Monstars. Method Man, like ridiculous stuff. But and obviously I love Michael Jordan. Of course, even then I thought it was silly. I was like, the Looney Tunes did not get him to go back to baseball from back to basketball from baseball, but there was like just the right amount of nostalgia in that, where he's just playing basketball and he's from North Carolina, and it's like, oh yeah, he needed to discover the love of the game and that he actually loves this, and it was like just the right amount of shoestring in there for them to pull him in, to make it seem not ridiculous. And I like that we don't going to get too deep into the movie yet, but I do like, first of all, the nod to all of the movie references in the Warner catalog is great. This movie does not have good reviews, people, by the way.
Oh yeah, it's not getting well received at all.
I haven't read any of them, because this is why we have this podcast, is that on IMDb it has like a 30% right now, and it has an 81% audience score. Sorry. On IMDb, actually, it is really low. It's like a 3 or 4 or 5. But on Rotten Tomatoes, it's like a 30%, because critics are so fucking highbrow. But it has an 81% audience score, because they sat there and they said, LeBron James, video games, Looney Tunes. There's a lot of basketball players.
And
check.
it's funny, like, even during the movie, it's like they're calling out the reviewers. It's like, remember fun? They're talking to you, internet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we I think John actually made this point on an episode in the past where it was like, we need new ways of looking at movies. If we just use like the structure and the rising action and the climax and the denouement and the subplot, the B plot, and this, like that stuff is just not how we want to consume content. Movies and content are not the same thing anymore. And the way they cross over is fluid. And with Space Jam, they waited a year and they released this movie,
Yeah.
probably knowing that the plot and those kinds of things, yeah, maybe they could get ripped apart. Maybe there are certain elements of it that could just tell, like, oh, if I did this, maybe a critic would like it more. And then they said, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so
I mean,
cool.
if I was to revert back to our old franchise face-off scoring system, this would have had X's in the 30s. Like
a good thing, people.
I was entertained like crazy through this. Like the cameos, seeing the characters, hearing the new voice talent for the characters, and it is like the new voice talent is great.
Yeah.
They didn't overuse any of the gags, but they managed to get a lot of the stuff in. For the and that's for the parents who are going to see it. Like the people who have kids who are taking their kids to see this. It's like, hey, come watch Bugs Bunny, and kids like, who's Bugs Bunny? You'll see. But the parent is sitting there watching all these classic references, and then you've got all of like the back, like when they get to the basketball game, there's just like it's almost like Bugs Bunny's Ready Player One. At the end of it, like there's so many references in this film. It just keeps you entertained the whole way through. And the third kid that couldn't watch us with it, would watch it with us, was a baby, and he had been put to bed and was asleep, and they just about had to put a pillow over my face because I kept guffawing at the top of my lungs at some of the stuff that was happening in this movie. So I almost woke the baby, like I want to say 7 or 8 times.
I mean, maybe the kids don't understand when Granny, the Granny Looney Tune character, says game blouses. Maybe the kids don't know that's a Chappelle Show reference. Maybe they don't know that Don Cheadle puts a red sweater on to throw a chair at the ref as a Bobby Knight reference. But and they don't even do it obviously. Like they do it subtly in a way that I think is really
there's
clever.
so many varied references. Like I didn't even get the red sweater one. There's so many varied references. Every single person is going to get something in this film, and it's going to be something different. Then you're all going to talk about it and go, "Oh, wow, there was that as well."
And you know what? This is HBO Max right now. I know that I don't know if they were partnered from the beginning, although Barbershop is on HBO, and they did make a Barbershop reference in this, which is sorry, is that what they call LeBron? I feel like an asshole now because I just watched this. Is it called The Shop? It's LeBron and his business partner Maverick Carter's like talk show essentially, and they get athletes and comedians on to shoot the shit in a barbershop. But so that's on HBO, but this is an HBO Max showing. All of Netflix, you know what Netflix uses as a metric now is just time that your eyeballs are on the screen, which is like, duh, that's what Facebook cares about. That's it. And this movie has rewatchability written all over it. So if your kid, for instance, wants to watch this movie again as a parent, you go, okay, cool. Well, let me watch it again and let me see if I can find some new references that I didn't see. Also, it opens with LeBron playing basketball, kind of in the original. It opens with Michael playing in his driveway, a young Michael in North Carolina before he's rich and famous, right? John playing in his driveway.
Yeah,
this
correct.
one opens to Ghetto Superstar, which is one of the best songs from the 90s. It's so good, and just playing ball in his driveway, and it's like all work, you know, same thing as the original. It's like you gotta focus, you gotta work hard. So then flash forward, and LeBron's doing that to his kid, but his kid doesn't want to be a basketball player. He wants to be a game developer. And so that's sort of the conflict that's going on here. There's sort of like a
horror.
I actually wrote down hook as like a plot device.
Oh,
that they
absolutely.
Use.
Yeah.
Where,
Don Cheadle is basically
Don Cheadle
Hook.
becomes Hook.
Yeah, like, and also just quick shout out, Don Cheadle in this movie makes me wish for War Machine to turn bad in Avengers, because holy hell, even like the script is in kid mode. Obviously, you have to over explain the plot to get it through to like your younger audience and everything.
Yeah.
But he just still manages to be like cool and sinister, and like I really dug his performance. I thought he worked really well with what he was given.
Me too. He definitely had a blast. John, I'm going to kick it over to you, but just to do our final little plot for anybody who's listening to this and hasn't seen it yet. So the son wants to go to a game developer camp, a camp just for young gamers and programmers who want to develop video games. And this kid, by the way, has hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of development equipment. He has monitors, computers, he has devices and plugins and everything. And yet LeBron's not a supportive father somehow for his habit. But LeBron's like, you got to focus on basketball. Well, this kid is very clearly developing.
I'm a little pissed that kid had better CG skills than me.
I mean, well, yeah, etc. So anyway, so the plot is LeBron James gets brought in by is it Warner? Are they just being shameless?
Yeah.
They're brought in by Warner. I guess this would be Warner
Yes.
Games.
It had the giant water tank, dude. It's Warner
want
Brothers.
Yeah, that's right. They sell the studio in LA, and they want to take LeBron, like current day LeBron playing for the Lakers. LeBron, they want to take LeBron. Oh, they also did inputs because they showed him winning the Lakers championship last year, and that was after the movie was supposed to be released. So they clearly went, shit, we got to recut that opening with LeBron winning in LA. But they want to take the character LeBron James and turn him into a fluid AI that can go in video games and movies and anything Warner related, so that LeBron James basically becomes this presence in everybody's lives, like almost like Alexa meets Link from Zelda or some shit. And the kid thinks it's a pretty cool idea because he loves the app, and LeBron thinks it's stupid because it's dumb for his brand and he just wants to be a basketball player. And while they're in Warner, Don Cheadle, who is an AI, somehow snaps them into this like cyber verse, and the only way out is by winning a basketball game on Don Cheadle's terms, who thinks he's rigging the game. But LeBron finds a way of de-rigging the game by getting the Looney Tunes. Yeah, anyway, okay, that's it. John, talk away.
I do like that they, at the very beginning, they, in this big nod to like what's happening with technology, that they kind of stand by from the beginning, that LeBron thinks it's a bad idea. You shouldn't be able to just throw someone anywhere, that there is something lacking in meat. There's almost like two major lessons or themes that are happening in this story. One of them is that, and I do think they do a good job of kind of demonstrating through all the meta referential kind of stuff that it's a joke that you see the Agent Smith behind the Wicked Witch of the West. You see all these IP that are sitting back there. It's funny. It's a joke. Yeah. If you actually were to sincerely try to just put people in different scenarios and just get rid of acting and performances entirely, like that would change something. So that was one thing. I feel like Warner was talking to audience members and saying, we think there's a line, or we think that the way this technology is beginning to blend, there's a tasteful way to do this, and there's untasteful ways or distasteful ways to do this. Get it? I also think the only thing that maybe this is suffering from, because again, I still ultimately agree with you guys. I was thinking constantly when I was watching this, if I was a kid, I would rewatch this a lot probably. But I think one thing that is a secret sauce of the original Space Jam that this doesn't have, just because of the fact that it's just a different human, is that they made the original Space Jam right when Michael was retiring, like right after he retired. So it was in that
96. He goes 96, 7, 8. It was like he was like in his last 3 years. We know that now, but he was still playing when this came out.
Was he still playing full time? Okay, so wait, because of course he won those years, but that's so fucking crazy that movie took on the story of him retiring and choosing to come back. It must have been in the air. He must have been talking about it though, right?
No.
It might have put the idea in his head. They ruined it for everyone.
He retired to play baseball. So
right.
This movie came out. So here's the timeline is, people. He wins 91, 92, 93. He leaves for a year and a half, comes back. So he loses the 1995 title in the playoffs, and then he wins 96, 97, 98. So this movie comes out in 96. So it actually comes out right after he won his first championship back, and then he goes on to play 2 more years to win 2 more championships. But he was back by this point. Essentially what they're saying at the end by him going back is that he rediscovered his love of basketball. I don't know if the Looney Tunes helped or not, but no, he was, because even if you watch The Last Dance, like he would have played another year in Chicago. Like he would have played a couple more years.
So that year in 94, so he did take a year and a half off to
play baseball. And then he came back. He came back
okay,
mid-season.
So the point I'm making is
Jeff has every sports statistic ever in his head.
No, I mean it's good to know.
I think I just fucked up those years. It was either 90 to, I think it was 91 to 93 was when they won.
Doesn't matter. Point I was making is that we were in on his story. Like it was such a big, he's such a superstar that we kind of were in on it. And I think
also there was no debate. LeBron's a debate. There was no debate about Michael Jordan.
Well, yeah, about the greatest, but just this separately, just the storyline thing. They had solid gold in their hands because everybody was already kind of invested and interested in Michael's story. And LeBron has, I don't know if it's him, I don't know if it's his representation, for whatever reason, he has never been quite the same way in the limelight of what's happening in his personal life that Michael Jordan was.
Correct.
So there is something missing from the you feel like you kind of already know what the original Space Jam was going to be about, but you feel invited. There's like an intimacy there as an audience member because you're seeing Michael go through this. And it's weird that they're just making a movie about that thing that he just really did with his real life. This one doesn't have that. So it feels a little bit more truly fictional. I'm very aware that I'm comparing the previous one where Michael Jordan plays with Looney Tunes to being something other than just fictional. But I think you know what I'm saying. This one doesn't have that. So you just have to kind of put on your imagination cap a little bit. I don't know much about LeBron James' personal life. I don't know if he has a family that is even close to this situation. I don't know if he identifies with this storyline at all. You have to kind of put that to the side and just say, this is all just a vehicle to see him play with Looney Tunes. And if you do that, you're going to have fun.
Well, I think it was all a little bit of a vehicle as well, that we can do this again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it worked then, it might work now. If we can pull this off, it might revitalize some properties and stuff like that. So there's a lot of thinking business-wise behind it. But in my opinion, the execution of this was, like, I was pleasantly surprised by LeBron. Like, he was great.
Training day, dude. I mean, not training day.
He was Denzel.
Fuck
no,
you.
Train wreck. Train wreck.
Jesus Christ. yeah.
He was good in Train wreck. Him with Bill Hader was great.
Yeah.
He does a good like odd couple kind of thing with other actors.
No, this was the first time I'd seen him in anything, and I was like pleasantly surprised.
They gave him just enough to act because you could tell they wanted the story as you guys had both mentioned before.
Yeah,
and then they were like, "Oh no, don't push,
yeah.
don't try to emote. We'll take care of that."
But it's like
they got him right in the sweet spot.
They knew their limitations as well in certain aspects. It's like, this is as far as we can push the Looney Tunes. This is as far as we can push LeBron, and they kept everyone in their wheelhouse. And in my opinion, made a really good movie.
I mean, it's a fatherly love story.
It is. Well, it's also about a kid trying to grow up in the shadow of a legend. And the expectations on that kid. So there's a lot of themes flying through here. Like,
so if Michael Jordan was finding himself for love of the game, this was way more about the father and the son. It was more like Hook. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I do think I'm curious if I was surprised when I rewatched the first Space Jam about how clean it is. It's not just 30 minutes shorter. It is extremely simple. You get all that stuff I was talking about in the first few minutes, and then it basically just throws Michael Jordan into the scenario, and he has to win a game, and that's it. They really they don't do much more at all. And for some reason, as a kid, I laughed a lot watching that one too, you guys. So it still was funny to me. But as a kid, I remember, God, we put that on over and over and over and over again at sleepovers and stuff. I am curious if there might be a little too much to have the same rewatchability as the first one.
Do kids expect more now? Like, are they, because they're more well versed with this technology? Maybe you can't get away with that now with kids. They'll see through it.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. It's just I do think it was. There were some times, if I'm being honest, I'll drink for this. I do think there were some times where I felt like they were trying to push story into the last hour of the movie when we already had. I felt like the setup was enough. LeBron's on the court with some tunes. Let's just play some fucking basketball. And they kept trying to there were moments where I felt like, I don't know, that maybe there was a little too much story.
I disagree. Yeah. Dave, do you disagree?
I mean, you got to finish what you started. Like, they set up these story threads, they had to wrap them up. They couldn't leave them hanging, or they get even worse reviews than for some reason they're getting.
I'm gonna level with both of you though, because as soon as they're playing basketball and they introduced the fact that the points don't really matter the way that, you know what I mean, then I was like, oh, this is gonna cause some problems, and it did, because it's like, a cool thing about sports. Wow, I sound cool when I say that out loud. But the cool thing is that, well,
I'm curious what you're about to say.
Genuinely speaking, they're very simple. In soccer, the most goals, baskets, units, whoever has the most.
Also,
wins.
the best fall down wins the Oscar as well.
But then, as soon as you start, then it's like you have style points, and I know this is a game, so it has a different IP, but they need stakes because the points don't matter. LeBron James had this crazy huge dunk, and it was 48 points and not 79 or not 7,000, or it's like the points don't matter. And I wish that they did. It put more emphasis on the other thing, because you know what? I've seen I've seen shitty sports movies where at the end of the movie, if you're down by one with 10 seconds left, that's all I need. I don't need anything else. And for this, the points didn't matter. And I was like,
this was almost, I get what you're saying, and it was almost a participation ribbon type thing. It's like the points don't matter as long as you're having fun.
No, but he needed to get his kid, though. So
but
like
the whole message behind it was like, you need to have more fun on the court. The court's not just a job. Have some fun. You got to enjoy what you're doing. I get what you're saying, but also like it was a lesson to be learned. And then when they did embrace the looniness of those Looney Tunes and they did what they did best,
yeah,
it paid off.
I wish Don Cheadle didn't become a shitty dad. I feel like they needed help getting LeBron this kid back with that, like all the things, and like Don Cheadle turning into a bad dad. I wish they didn't have to do that, but I think they had to rely on that because the story started to fall apart.
See, that's what I was talking about. I feel like there were things like that were manipulated. And since you guys brought up the Hook reference, I think Hook is a better movie, even though it was canned when it came out.
I love Hook. It's a fucking
I love
classic.
Hook too.
Fuck
I love
anyone
Hook
who says
too.
that's a bad movie.
But they don't do that with Jack, do they? Dustin Hoffman's Hook does not turn on him. It comes from within. It's from Jack realizing of his own. It's not because he screamed at him. So I did feel like that was a little manipulative. And I do agree with what you're saying, Jeff, about the points things. I still really enjoyed the commentary from the guy from Get Out, and what's his name, who joined the commentator, the two commentators.
Oh yeah.
The actor, he's so funny, and he was on the Oscars this year. He walked around and played the game with them. So when he had to kind of acknowledge and make light of the fact, like, oh, this is a video game of basketball. Like, oh, this is going to be way more fun. But I every time that I see stuff like that on film, I just try to not take it. I try to remind myself that I don't like or play video games. So of course I'm not going to respond the same way that someone who loves the video game universe would.
Yeah, that's me.
But I do think it got in the way of some of the story stuff. I think I agree with you, Jeff. That, like, in terms of storytelling rules, it lowered some of the stakes for me. I just wasn't quite sure why I was supposed to care if we could come back from 5,000 or something.
Lil Ray Howery. Okay, cool. Well, let's do one more comparison to the original movie, and I know my answer, and I'm setting this up with just a bag of shit.
You're just gonna pimp us into this.
Here's the thing: when I'm out, I remember very vividly Memorial Day weekend being in Central Park, where everybody's out one year when there wasn't a pandemic, and somebody was wearing a Toon Squad jersey. And everybody knew whose name was on the back of that jersey. Whose name was on the back of the jersey?
Oh, you mean
a cool person wearing a Toon Squad jersey? Whose jersey was it?
Bugs?
It was Bill Murray's jersey, man. Like the best. There was such a cool thing that they did in that movie, where you have Bill Murray, you have Larry Bird as himself. You have.
I will say, yeah, I did want to make that point, Jeff. I'm glad you bring that up.
The athletes in
the way they
didn't use this. They didn't use the supporting cast. Enough.
I was shocked at how well, because I just hadn't seen the original one in so long. Again, this is not a total comparison.
Damn it! Now we're just shitting on this movie. We like this movie.
No, I did like it. I did like it, but I'm telling you, I just rewatched the first one and I did like it more. And I don't know if it's the nostalgia, but one thing that you're talking about specifically that I do think they utilized really well that they did not utilize in this one is the way they integrated professional athletes into this ridiculous scenario. The way they go back to the five who are their talent is stolen in the first one.
Yeah, they basically made them the Monstars.
Yeah, I do think there was a little bit of a.
I like that.
I do think if we're going to try to blend the sports world and the kids world thing, I do feel like this one, again, in kind of that thing I was saying with how LeBron's always been kind of isolated away from like the image and what we have of him and stuff. I don't think they brought anyone else into the fray with this either. So I already had like a protagonist who I don't really know how close this is to him, which is different, than it was in the first one. And they didn't bring in any of the other athletes. So it just felt a little bit more imaginative, if you will, than being based on real people who were getting brought into this ridiculous scenario. All right. But anyway, I don't know.
Redeem this movie for us, because we're shitting on this.
I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit. And this is a massive spoiler, everyone. So we're going to hit the spoilers here. The team recovery montage is fucking hilarious to me.
Hilarious,
I mean, when we go, like, we went through all the worlds, and quite frankly, if he'd landed in Oz instead of Toon World, I'm going to stand by it. Much worse team from Oz. Like, what do you get to pick from there? But yeah,
see some good flying monkeys.
when they're doing the recovery montage, we got to, and this is one of the times when I nearly woke the baby, and when Taz hits the windscreen, and the camera pans up, and it's fucking Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're dropping them off.
They're like, we've done all the experiments we can. It's your problem now. Bye.
Yeah.
It was just, it's blink and you miss it, but I pissed myself laughing. The whole,
And they made
the whole Wonder Woman thing, the whole DC thing, like all of those were great fun for me.
Yeah.
I mean, and of course they were, which is, I mean, those are fun. That is the nostalgia thing. Again, there's a little bit of me whenever I see that much nostalgia that's like, okay, I guess we're relying on this now. But I did appreciate that they were all done really well. I also loved because that montage reminded me of Mighty Ducks 2 when they get the gang back together.
Yep.
And they're going around and they're like, quack, and everybody's coming out of their houses.
Yeah.
And I think, doesn't Daffy right after that sequence doesn't he say, we should name ourselves the Ducks? And he's like, what Disney company would name themselves the Ducks? Like, it's,
No, I want to say the Michael Jordan joke.
That was good.
There has
Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, there's okay.
Yeah.
First of all, wasn't there some beef between them about one of them saying the other one was shit or something at one point?
oh no.
I don't know. I think I read something about that. I don't know. Like, that might not be real. I might have dreamt it.
Right.
But I tell you what, there has not been such a hilarious letdown moment since Captain America at the end of Spider-Man.
It's so
I'll
good.
stand by
They
it.
queued up
This
the
was awesome. Yeah,
they queued up the music and everything.
Yeah.
And they had a great dad joke in there where I think
Yeah.
it was Daffy went, you couldn't find Michael A. Jordan, so you went with Michael B. Jordan. It's like the dumbest joke of all time that I'm going to laugh at every single time I see this movie.
Like there's so much fun in here. Like I watched it again. Like I watched it on the weekend with the kids. And the borrowed kids that I have, and
Borrowed kids.
yes.
Dave, careful. This goes out to the whole world.
And then I watched it again today.
Nice.
So I've seen this twice, and it was just as fucking funny and fun the second time through.
Tell me what's going on. Why does it have a 4.3 on IMDb? Like, who are these pricks?
I mean, they're just bitter. Like they forgot.
What do you think they're bitter about?
I think they've just forgotten how to be children.
Yeah, it's definitely
quote,
not kids.
To quote
on
Hook, they need a
IMDb
mother
rating
very,
this
very
movie.
badly.
Nice, Dave. Pretty clever.
Yeah. I also wonder if there are just a lot of younger people who, the point you made initially, that don't really care about Looney Tunes anymore. They all have phones. Maybe they're on IMDb. They're in their teenage years and they're just like, fuck this shit. Like, why didn't they do this with like some new characters that we actually give a shit about?
Yeah, I mean,
or that we grew up with?
It's highly likely this movie was made literally just for me. I don't know, but I really dug it. I really got it. And I mean, if you can sit all the way through this and not get at least one reference out of it that makes you giggle, like...
Yeah, there's funny stuff.
I challenge anyone to do. It's filmed well. It's made well. I don't know whether you saw the clip that I posted on Facebook this week, but there's a behind the scenes clip where it shows the woman who was playing Bugs Bunny in the CG version, and she was just pumped that she got to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's go.
Nice.
And it's literally an empty green stage with like LeBron standing in the middle of it, some people at the back. Yeah, just before we wrap this up, I do want to bring it back because I remember I promised the nuns thing. There's a bit of controversy going on the internet at the moment about the exclusion of Pepe Le Pew. Because obviously the character's a little bit rapey. He won't take no for an answer, that sort of thing. It's a bit of toxic male like example there, and so they cut him from the film.
So he was originally in it?
He was originally in it, and they cut him. I'm not sure whether it was a script or whether they already had shot it and they cut him out or what. But okay, so they've done that, and then in the background, on fucking courtside, you get the Droogs from Clockwork Orange standing there in the crowd, who literally rape a woman on camera. It's like, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?" And then the characters that I was referring to, where you said the nun, that's actually the nymphomaniac nuns from The Devil, the film that Warner Brothers filmed 50 years ago and still won't release an uncut version of.
Wow.
So yeah, it's like there's all these like really, really adult references in the background. Like it is standing in the fucking crowd, for Christ's sake.
It is there in the crowd.
Like,
Yeah.
he kills children.
That's right. That's correct.
The way they did cut back to Don Cheadle so much, and there's always different people standing behind him, and he's always in a different outfit.
Yep.
It was funny. It was
Yeah,
funny.
I mean, some of the like, yeah, and they pulled everyone in. Like, you had the dinosaurs, you had Fred Flintstone, you had the Jetsons standing there in the background. Like, there is so much in the back of these shots. It's interesting to watch just for that.
I'm gonna ask when we're on the Matt and Mark movie show in a little bit, which we'll
Yeah.
link about in the socials. But did anybody say the word algorithm before The Social Network, which is a movie we did recently, as I should have seen it by now? Everybody was like,
Not in
Eduardo,
entertainment, I'm sure.
Eduardo, I need the algorithm. I need the algorithm. And now all of a sudden, there's a whole Space Jam movie with the biggest basketball player in the world, meant for families, and there is a character who is an algorithm come to life.
Called Algae Rhythm.
It's been a crazy 10 years in movies, right? Like,
Yes.
I mean,
nobody
clearly,
said algorithm before that, right?
no, these kids are
Outside
gonna
of, like,
grow
the
up
tech
and all
and
be
finance
fucking
world.
computer programmers, though. I feel like the world is changing. Like,
That's happened.
yeah, I think that theme was clearly there, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, it
So
could not have
fucked.
been more obvious. Like, you
We-
don't have to play basketball; you can make your own video game.
We've got to
Yeah.
monetize this podcast fast because we're fucked, man. All
do it.
right,
Everybody
All
send
right,
money.
people.
We're now Disney.
Go see Space Jam. It's fun. Have a good time. Yeah, it's gonna be good. Watch it with your kids. Rewatch it. Try to find the references. See how many you can get. Have a blast. But before we head out, we are going to give you some recommendations. You know, John and I and Dave just said he had a busy week. Let's see if anybody shout out some things. What do you think? What do you want to recommend?
I don't want to recommend it. Well, I'm halfway through it, and it's not bad, but I'm only halfway through it. I stopped it halfway, and I'll go back to it at some point. I watched Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh yeah, the
Well,
one
the
that came
new
out
one.
like last year.
Yeah, the one that released
With
that
or
really.
without teeth?
No, it was the without teeth version.
Okay.
I didn't watch the horror movie version of this thing.
Okay.
That was fucking terrifying. That first incarnation they made of it.
Is
But
Jim
yeah.
Carrey in this?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Yeah, it's you're not really recommending it, right?
Not really. No, I'm recommending you maybe find something else. And if you can't find something, go for that.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't have any strong recommendations. I rewatched The Abyss last week, which was a fun one. But yeah, how about you, Joe?
I actually didn't watch a goddamn thing because I was I drove for 30 hours in the past week and I had a crazy week. But
So you watched The Horizon, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Chloe watched the documentary on HBO Max about the doctor from the Olympic gymnastics team.
Oh shit!
It's on HBO Max. His name is Larry, and it begins with an N, but I'm gonna mess his last name up. He was at Michigan State, and every motherfucker on the American Olympic Committee, IOC probably, they all knew that he was doing weird stuff. And I didn't watch it. Chloe did, so I'm not gonna say the graphic stuff she did. We all know that he probably did it.
Yeah.
But like, it's on HBO Max, and she said it gripped her. So I'm gonna recommend that to everybody. I don't know what it's
That's
called.
probably not an easy watch, but yeah, we don't always do the easy watches here.
This is recent. It's like people that we still know were being,
Yeah.
they were being
Yeah, no, this
assaulted.
was like what 3-4 years ago.
Gold
that it came
medals.
out?
Like
Yeah.
the entire gold
Yeah.
medal team had been assaulted by this. Anyway.
Yeah,
I
fucking
don't
horrid.
want to speak for them and their lives, but 70 women came forward. It's on HBO Max, and we have to keep seeing the shit so that it can stop. So even though it's
Yes.
a hard watch, it's good to put out there.
Yeah.
All right, people, that's it for us. Thank you for tuning in. John, Dave, I'll see you on the Matt and Mark movie podcast and our next segment where we're going to be doing a Nicolas Cage movie, people, that came out in 2021 called Willy's Wonderland. That was a script that had been trying to be made for years as a genre film, and it just took Nicolas Cage to not want to have to memorize any lines to do it. Look out for Willy's Wonderland, and we'll see you soon.